cheap products, and they now want to get into a value chain. They want to do bigger, better things, you know. Their wind turbines are not as good as GE makes it over here, but they want to be the supplier of those kind of things. And so a lot of companies have actually, for the first time, complained to their congressmen and senators and the others, you got to take care of this. These guys are making rules. Remember, in Bush administration, Secretary Paulson was fighting with China that you need to devalue or revalue your Chinese currency. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was pegged to the U.S. dollars, 8 wons to $1. Well, they were successful. Today it is 6.4 or 6.3 wons to $1. But other countries are complaining they're still too high. It needs to be something like 4 wons to $1. If that happens, you know, China is looking at it, they have given us $2.4 trillion. If the wons go to 4, they would lose something like $460 billion. And anything that you import, particularly the natural goods that China is short of, will become cheaper. And all the undershirts that we buy from China or the socks that we buy from China will become expensive. So America can make their own underwears and their own socks. I mean, that's what is going to happen if they make their currency at a fair value, which is something like 4 wons, you know.
I mean, I think, you know, it's very easy to criticize a country as large and influential as China, but we here in the United States need to take a look at ourselves also. I mean, a lot of the statements you've made assume that we're being very fair about the way we go about trading American products, and that is just not the case. We can be protectionist as well and say, look at agriculture. I mean, the agricultural subsidies that go to American farmers, I know they're hardworking farmers, are still very unfair to other countries who are producing those very same products, those very same crops, for much less money. But they are priced out by the U.S. because the government is subsidizing American farmers.
Now, you may have a point there, except I will tell you, take a look at our unemployment. Take a look at the number of factories that have suffered. Take a look at our recession. We have had a recession. Has China got a recession? No. They're doing fantastic. Right now, they're actually looking down on every country. Hey, man, you don't know how you're running your country. Look at us. We're doing such a great job. Basically, I think we supported China in the last 30 years. We, in order not to have inflation at home, we went for cheaper and cheaper goods, so there was no inflation. But in the meantime, we just killed our manufacturing. We just created so much unemployment. So now we are thinking about it, and you're right, President Obama was the one who talked about outsourcing. And he said, much rather create a job in Buffalo than in Bangalore. You
yeah, I remember that line very well.
So Chinese are bracing up, and I guess there's a whole lot of talk between both countries. You know, they're throwing things at the wall, something might stick. But the debate is interesting. I find it very exhilarating when I read things about China. I think the country has done wonderful, though.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's actually very expensive right now to buy garlic in China. Now, China is the world's largest producer of garlic, and the wholesale prices have increased, get this, 605% per ton between March 2009 to February 2010. So we're talking about, in just 1 year's time, 605% increase. And there are a couple of factors that led into this. Back in 2008, it was a really bad year for garlic. And so in 2009, a lot of the yields were cut and there was much less output of the product. But guess what? That's also when swine flu hit. And garlic has antibiotic properties. You know, people in India and China believe very strongly in using garlic for medicinal purposes as well, of course, in our cooking. So then, with the high demand and the low supply, there's where you got your 605% increase.
That's right, but American farmers cannot go into the garlic business, you know, simply because Chinese will double and triple production next year. And we'll all be holding too much garlic in our hands. Well, we do. You know, we have a garlic industry in California, but still 50% of American garlic is imported from China. 50%?
50%.
What did I say? We're killing our farmers, we're killing our factories. Moving on, I was reading a story in Washington Post about how the food that is coming in not only from China, from other places too. 7% of the food is a bogus food that is being sold. You know, catfish fillet, once you remove the skin, a fillet is a fillet is a fillet. You don't know which fish it came from. So they're selling the catfish fillet, for instance, as a grouper, or red snapper, or flounder from Vietnam. In other words, there are a lot of people that are involved in this, and particularly this type of food is coming from foreign countries, not from here. But as you know, here there's a strong regulation, and there are inspectors and the others, but this is the food that comes from outside.
Well, I don't know that the regulation really is that strong, if what you're saying is true, because basically that means when we go to the supermarket, we are paying higher prices for things that we think are better quality or that are something that they're actually not.
But Department of Agriculture will take a umbrage with what you just said, because they're going to tell you, hey, we have inspectors in China, we have inspectors in India. These guys are checking food supply. But yeah, because there's so much of it comes through, you cannot have that many inspectors everywhere. But Department of Agriculture does try, though.
Well, I think that we could probably still do better in terms of enforcement, because this could have health repercussions. It certainly is ripping people off at the supermarket because we don't know what we're eating.
That's very true.
We all know that the job market is really tough right now. In fact, job seekers outnumber openings 5-1. But this New York Times article is talking about not just those drastic situations where you had former professionals going to work at Starbucks or at fast food restaurants. It's more common now for people to take 1 or 2 steps down below their pay grade and overqualified applicants applying for jobs that normally they probably would not have.
But I want to tell you something. Overqualified people feel the best because they don't care if they lose the job. So they're very secured. They actually like working 1 or 2 steps down, though it's bad for your financial health, but it's actually very good for you because you know the job inside out, backside, upside down, and you're comfortable with it.
Well, it depends on how your employer uses you in that job, because some people who are overqualified actually do get frustrated and feel like their skills are not being put to good use or that they're not being respected as they would like to be given their qualifications. On the other hand, though, if you really nurture the leadership potential in that person and give them more freedom to actually use those skills that they bring to the job, then they could be happy because, honestly, you know, any job is better than no job in this situation. And you've got people like the former chief financial officer working as a comptroller or a marketing director who's being an analyst. So they're clearly stepping down out of need and